Hello there. So today I thought I would cover two things, and I think they fit together fairly nicely. I'm not going to review a pen. I'm just going to talk about why one would want to use a fountain pen in this day and age. That will be the first part of this video. And then in a second part I'm going to discuss some common myths. If you use fountain pens, then you will be asked certain things by people, and well, generally speaking, I think there are a couple of myths that sort of surround the whole fountain pen writing thing. Now, I think most of these can be dispelled, so I just thought it would be interesting to share my thoughts with you. So this all may be a little philosophical, and if you're not in the mood for that, then feel free to, leave right now. But if you do think it would be interesting to listen to me share my thoughts with you, then please, by all means, stay here. So, I think the first question is, why would you want to use a fountain pen, right? In this day and age, we all send emails, and we don't write that much anymore, and if we do, generally speaking, we use these cheap blue ballpoint pens or something like that. And some of us still use fountain pens. Now, why would you want to do that? I think there's a couple of reasons, and I have to check my list here because I made a list. For me, the first reason is the smoothness of writing, and that's actually just a personal psychomotor thing, I think. Because when I write with a ballpoint pen, I always apply quite a lot of pressure. It's just something I do. I don't know why, it just happens. When I write with a fountain pen, it allows me to write more smoothly. I don't push down as hard in that pen. I don't know why, it just happens. So for me it's a much smoother writing experience, which I like a lot. Of course that's fairly pleasant. I mean, it's easier to write, it's more fluent to write that way. So that's nice. I like that about fountain pens. Something else I like is that fountain pens give you a lot of choices. You can choose a specific brand you like, you can choose the nib size. Do you want a broad nib, a smaller nib, which is nice. That allows you to sometimes really customize the pen. Sometimes you only have one option, but in any case, it allows you to customize your preferences. What do you like? Do you have a very bold handwriting? Then you may want to use a broad nib. If you have a much finer or small little handwriting, then you may want to use a finer nib. And sometimes you just want to interchange them and just mix and see what happens. So I have some fine nibs, I have some extra fine, well, actually I have one extra fine nib, I have quite a couple of medium nibs, and they all write differently. I mean, even there's a difference between brands. What is a medium nib in brand A can actually be a fairly broad nib in brand B, for example. So that's nice. Another option you have is the choice of ink. If you use cartridge converter pens or eyedropper filler fountain pens, you can really pick your ink. So sometimes I write with red, then I write with green, blue, black. Any shade imaginable is pretty much on the market. So that's really nice. I mean, if you really specifically like this color, then generally speaking you can get ink in that color, and that can add a personal statement to your writing, unlike most ballpoint pens, which are either blue or black, sometimes red or green, but that's pretty much it, right? So with a fountain pen you can vary, and you can vary your ink color to, I don't know, according to your mood or the day of the week or the month or the time of the year or whatever. You can do all of these things, and it's very difficult to do that with a ballpoint pen. Then you have a choice of brands. Some brands make really cheap pens, other brands make very expensive pens, and then there's a lot in between. You will prefer certain brands over others, and what's a good brand for you may not be a good brand for someone else, but that's fine. That's, again, a lot of choices, a lot of options you have, and I like that too. Now, when it comes to actually using pens, one of the main reasons for me to use a fountain pen is that it allows me, unlike any other writing instrument, to organize my thoughts. Sometimes when I'm reading something, I try to understand what I read, which I have to do for my job. Sometimes I just want to make a mental note and put it on paper, actually. In all of these cases, I think it's easiest to use a fountain pen, because it's so fluent, it's so smooth, it goes so quickly. And if you're writing, you can immediately draw a schedule, or a diagram, or a figure, or whatever. You can do that straight away. If you work in a text editing program on your computer, you can't do that. And you have to start to click buttons if you want to draw something, or maybe you want to change the font, or you want to underline something, or make it, I don't know, in italics or whatever. It's all different actions. With a fountain pen, you can immediately underscore something, or you can start drawing. And all of that, I think, is really, it's an unparalleled way to organize your thoughts and to really get them to paper straight away. And because the flow is so smooth, there's nothing in your way. You can just write away. And I think that's a quality that's only offered by fountain pens. Of course, you can also use pencils, and you can use ballpoint pens or rollerball pens or whatever. The fountain pen has something magical, and I think that anyone who is enthusiastic about fountain pens knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a almost childlike sense of happiness that the writing is so smooth and it looks so nice, and you see the wet ink on the paper, something that you don't see with a ballpoint pen. You see the wet ink, and you can watch it dry, which sounds utterly boring, but I think it's fun. It's interesting to see your thoughts take shape so precisely and so smoothly. So that's one of my main reasons to use a fountain pen. And I think the final reason I like fountain pens so much is that they are so personal. A fountain pen will adjust to the way you write, and you will hold it in your specific way, and that way you will write, and that's fine. And if someone else writes with a pen you've been writing with for a long time, then you shouldn't be surprised if it doesn't write straight away, because they will hold it a little bit differently, and your pen isn't used to that. And I think that's interesting. And not just that, but I always feel, that may sound a little esoteric or something, but your pen becomes a part of you. There are certain pens that you really like, that you really love, and they just, you take them to a lot of places, and they sort of, how shall I put that? They become a part of your collective memories. All the things you've seen, you have been through. Some of your pens have been a part of that, and that makes them very tangible memories, actually. And that's something I like. So it's a personal statement you can make. And I'm not saying you should, show off with expensive pens. That's not what I mean. It's just that that is your pen, and you like that pen. And that pen is a part of you and of your life, and it will be a part of you, hopefully, for many years. So that's something else. Whereas a ballpoint pen, the cheap blue plastic ones, if it's, it runs out of ink, you just throw it away and you don't give it a second thought. Well, you wouldn't do that with a fountain pen. No one would do that with a fountain pen. Just think about it. It's just a different way of writing. Right. So that is why I like to use fountain pens. Now, I'll make a second video which deals with common myths surrounding the fountain pen. And if you write with a pen, you'll, at some point or another, will be confronted with those myths. And I think it would be interesting to go through them. So that's the second part of this video. See you later.